doing, Erica?
Hey, morning. I'm great.
So
Really
good to have you
great.
in our studios. I'm so glad you live close to Musenberg.
And it's good to be here again. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. My goodness me. So, Erica, we got to talk about distracted driving. And I know people, myself included, when you're tired, when you're in a hurry, and yeah, I'm just quickly going to check something or whatever else like that. Is it
true.
really that bad?
It's very bad. It's very, very bad. South Africa came out pretty much the worst in the world, or amongst the worst in the world, when it came to distracted driving. And that just doesn't include cell phones.
Yeah.
It's anything within a vehicle or even without the vehicle that distracts you from actually having two hands on the wheel and your attention on the road at all times. So it includes changing the radio station or changing the CD for those of us who have old cars.
Yes, like me.
It includes quieting rowdy children in the back seat, people that distract the driver, and then even outside the vehicle. Billboards that are going past, there's an accident and we know how we all slow down to have a look at the accident.
I get so frustrated by rubberneckers.
People eat behind the wheel, they drink behind the wheel, they
make up?
They do make up. There are electric shavers.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yes. So it's really prevalent and it's a real concern because it does cause sometimes fatal accidents.
Now, we actually just yesterday were having a conversation off air in studio about, is it an accident or is it a crash? Because sometimes it's a crash because of distracted driving, because people taking an opportunity, taking a chance, the lights turning orange, they think they can make it through while it's still orange, and then bam. And we've all seen those accidents. Come on. We've all seen those accidents. Right. We've all heard those accidents. Some of us have been in accidents, sometimes not our own fault, other people's. And so that thing.
People jumping stuff, stop streets.
Exactly.
Like
you know?
Exactly.
So, and to the point, even I saw a friend's post on Facebook just the other day where he was having to drive late at night, or actually early morning, like 3:45 in the morning, somewhere. And somebody had purposefully put a rock in the road. So now if you're slightly distracted, slightly tired, you might not see that rock in time to respond. And then bam, you have a bad situation on your hands.
Yes.
So what are the stats in South Africa? I mean, you alluded to it right at the beginning that we are among the worst in the world when it comes to distracted driving.
I didn't actually bring all the stats with me because they are quite a lot. But for example, if you send a text that takes you perhaps 3 seconds to write, hi, you can travel the length of a rugby field in that time.
Yeah.
And that's really far, and a lot can happen in that time. Younger people are more prone to distracted driving, and that's possibly where the cell phone connection comes in.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, too, that a lot of us think, I'll be fine. It can't happen to me. I'm really careful, or I've got my eyes on the road. Let me just quickly do whatever. And the fact is that it happens in a split second. And if there is a crash and it's not fatal, it could potentially cause a disability and possibly a life-changing one and severely debilitating one.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so that's where we come in. We're running a One Less campaign, #OneLess, which says one less accident equals one less person that has a disability.
Yeah. And in South Africa, sadly, we have a lot of those circumstances and situations that lead to people being in accidents and then disabled to one or other degree, which is then for the rest of that person's life. So we don't want you to be that statistic. I don't want to be that statistic. Nobody wants to be that person. So it starts with being mindful and keeping your eyes on the road and not being distracted.
It's one of those kinds of disabilities that can largely be prevented. Obviously you can't prevent somebody else crashing into you, but you can certainly be vigilant and be aware on the roads and make sure that you aren't the cause of an accident.
And again, this is a Christian radio station, so the audience we're speaking to, those people listening to us, they get a lot of these things, and they are mindful of those things. And even when it comes to drunk driving, we do report about it on this station. But they, you might be saying as you listen to this, but I don't drive drunk. No, you don't, but somebody else does. And you're on the road and you're just slightly distracted by something good and positive. You want to send CCFM a WhatsApp message to say, oh, I really love that song. And in that moment, something could happen. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying it could happen. And that's what we want to stop, right?
Exactly.
So what are some of the practical things that we should put in place every time before we start a journey in the car?
Well, I would say for starters, put your phone in your handbag and leave it there.
And put your handbag under the seat, please,
the
ladies,
seat,
because we
in
don't
the
want smash and
boot.
grabs, or in the boot is even better.
There's nothing that isn't that important that it can't wait until you get to your destination.
Yeah.
That is it. Finish your hygiene activities, your toilet at home before you get in the vehicle.
So your makeup and things like that.
Yes. Sure, all of us need a sip of water every now and again, especially if you're on a long trip. But you have to be safe in order to do that. So pull over to the side of the road if you have to, especially on these long roads that get boring, they get monotonous, and you start thinking, it is straight ahead, I will be fine. And that's when it happens.
Yeah.
Obviously children need to be seat belted in. They can't be jumping around on the seats and what have you.
Please, let's just say that again. Children must be behind and under a seatbelt. Please, please, please.
In fact, everybody, we need to buckle up. And then I would say, even if you don't know where you're going, try and leave a little bit earlier and just spend some time before you start your journey finding out on your Google Maps or on your Garmin exactly where it is before you start.
That's it.
So that you aren't distracted. And when you come to an accident, please just drive past.
Unless you're a medical doctor or an emergency services person,
exactly.
Just drive past. Keep your eyes on the road. Don't slow down.
Yes. And when you come to roadworks, because let's face it, roadworks can also be distracting, is don't look at what's happening. Concentrate on what is happening on the road, concentrating on what the car in front of you is doing. Travel slower. Often I've seen drivers go whizzing through roadworks as if it's not there. So you really need to be vigilant while you're driving.
And let's also make sure we start teaching our children from a young age about these things. And remember, the best way to teach your children is to give the example. Exactly. Erica, it's been very interesting and important for us to have this conversation, especially as we head to the Easter weekend.
Yes.
Let's have less accidents. And again, you might feel that you are the good driver, you are that person that doesn't drink and drive, etc., etc.
Yes.
But please, 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 let's take this to heart and let's be cautious. Erica, thank you so much for your time. If people want to connect with the organization, how do they do so?
I think the simplest would be our telephone, which is 021 555 2881, or they can contact me directly on my email, which is awareness@wcapd.org.za.
Erica Du Toit, the coordinator for awareness and sensitization for the Western Cape Association for Persons with Disabilities. Thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me again.
You're so welcome.
Waking Up has